Well, I've got mixed feelings about comic books this week, but a couple of them give me reason to think that some good things, or things that I'll enjoy anyway, might be coming. Hi, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Welcome to Essential Issues Weekly, where I talk about DC Comics 1 week after their release on the Ultra tier of the DC Universe Infinite subscription service. In each installment, I pick an assortment of comics to talk about as a DC fan and also explore what, if anything, they have to say about the essential issues of real life. Now, warning, full spoilers for everything I talk about. This is your first and only warning that many spoilers lie ahead. First up, we're going to talk briefly about Sinister Sons #1. This is written by Peter J. Tomasi and is kind of spun out of a backup story that was happening in the pages of Green Lantern for a few issues. And I was wondering what the creative team would be for this ongoing book, and it looks like it is Tomasi and whatever artist was doing the backup story as well. And that combination, I really enjoyed some stuff that Tomasi has written, particularly his relational stuff between Batman and Damian in the past, and so I thought maybe I would really enjoy this run. But when it's not focused on the dads yet, maybe never, I don't know, and just focused on the sons, I don't know. I'm not really into stories about children being empowered and being stronger and smarter than adults, and I'm kind of getting that vibe with this comic so far, where like the kids are kind of running the show and causing adults to bow before them and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I think I'm going to continue skimming through this series and just see if it gets to the point where they start interacting with their dads. Because if that happens, I think it maybe could be my cup of tea. But for as long as it's just going to be about these two bratty boys interacting with each other, I'm not going to be into that. I'm also predictably not into what's going on in Action Comics right now with Bizarro. Again, as I talked about before, I just can't get my head around the inconsistencies in how the negative nature of Bizarro is treated. And so it just, I can tell they're going for something more serious here and having this Bizarro plague infect a bunch of people. I think it could be leading maybe to something kind of interesting next issue, because this issue ends with Superman needing to team up with basically a Bizarro Joker who, because he's a Bizarro Joker, is now sane and tactical and all that kind of stuff. So I think it potentially can set up some neat moments, and there maybe are a few of those in this issue, but it's filled largely with stuff that I'm just not interested in, because try as they might to make Bizarro a serious threat, I still, even this version of him, just find him silly. And sorry, I forgot to mention that was Action Comics number 1062. Now, the first of three comics that I did enjoy to some degree this week is Wesley Dodds' The Sandman #5. Wesley Dodds was able to figure out recently that ultimately the person that's trying to get a hold of his failed sleeping gas experiments that are more lethal is the military general that Wesley Dodds went to in the first issue saying, hey, how about a non-lethal way of doing warfare? And the general just kind of scoffed and sent him away. And we've come to find out that, oh, it's actually the general that's behind all of this. And so Dodds, understandably, is finally going to track him down and try to put an end to this. But to reach this general, he has to make his way through troops that he does not have anything against. In fact, they make a point in his internal monologue of having him say, you know, I have no grudge against soldiers serving their country. It's their leader that I'm here for. And this is reminiscent of things that I remember hearing during, let's see, which war was, oh, well, I think it was after 9/11, when U.S. military was active in the Middle East, and there was some differences of views from those left-leaning and those right-leaning on whether or not, you know, we should be involved and stuff like that. And I think those who were maybe more left-leaning tended to, at least the folks I was interacting with, tended to have great respect for soldiers, but big problems with the ones giving them orders, the ones at the very top, meaning, you know, the president. This doesn't read to me like liberal messaging or whatever. It just says to me that, you know, unsurprisingly, it's probably someone left-leaning who's doing the writing, but I could be wrong about that. Either way, Dodds is a little bit conflicted, you can tell, because last issue, I think it was, he first experienced the effects of his own sleep gas, which forced him to just feel kind of like the empathy of all the people that feel empathy with all the people that he had ever wronged in his life. And so it was this kind of like your life flashing before your eyes, all your horrible decisions and stuff, and being aware of how you impacted others with your bad decisions, and just feeling the agonizing weight of that. That's what everyone feels, and he felt it himself for the first time. So as he's storming this base and getting through all these soldiers, he says that, you know, he does feel for the first time he wants to use his weapon more sparingly, and he's also adjusted the mixture to immediately cause his victims to fall asleep instead of kind of, I guess, having this big empathetic experience. And if that's not enough to really try and justify the morally gray area that he's operating in, he says to himself, besides, if conditions in Europe don't change soon, I have a sour feeling many of these young men will soon be lost to war. Then at the same time, they're really portraying this, well, I said general before, I guess he's a colonel, as really sadistic. The guy at the top giving orders to the military is really sadistic. He says, imagine how Dodds must feel, not realizing he's talking to Wesley Dodds. All those chemical weapons he tried to hide away will leave a trail of dead soldiers all across Europe, across the world. Wish I could be there when he realizes that. So this is not a military leader who cares about human lives. He's happy to see Dodds completely defeated so that all of these lives can be snuffed out. And then he says, none of this matters. There's a war on. A man does what he has to for his country. And Dodds says, even if it's a war crime? The colonel responds saying, victory is unimpeachable. War crimes are for the defeated. And even though this colonel is being villainized, is there some messaging there going on? I don't know. But even in all of that, this is a point that I think can and should be well taken. Coming from the mouth of this sadistic villain, I think what we're meant to disagree with his stance on this, that war crimes are only for the defeated. That really those who are victorious in war, namely us, when that's the case, should still be held to account for misuses of authority, misuses of power in various skirmishes. I mean, there still needs to be accounting for how we handle ourselves when we are in the tragic situation of war. Anyway, thankfully for my tastes, looks like the story is going to get more personal now, because the colonel said that the journal's in someone's hands who's basically going to carry out his plans, and it looks like, if I'm keeping track of the characters right, it looks like it is Wesley Dodds' wife, or are they married at this point? I can't remember, but his future wife, if not his present wife in this story, her father is the one that is maybe ultimately behind this journal and the evil plans for it. So anytime we can get a story that's going to bring the drama, the conflict to a more personal level, then that's something I'm going to appreciate. So I'm very interested in seeing what happens in the next issue of Wesley Dodds' The Sandman. Then we have Green Lantern number 8, still written by Jeremy Adams. And I feel like I'm still catching up to what's going on in the world of Green Lantern here. What I'm really wanting to get resolved in my mind is what's going on with the United Planets, who are the current overseers of the Green Lantern Corps. The Guardians have mysteriously gone away. Hal Jordan is stuck on Earth. Earth has been quarantined by the United Planets, and Hal Jordan constructed a ring from a Manhunter battery, if memory serves, but it's a ring that doesn't work for him once he's outside of Earth's atmosphere, so he can't really get to the bottom of things in the way that he wants to. I feel like in this issue, we don't get really answers by following Hal's story. We get maybe hints of where some answers might be found, at least regarding his ring. He goes to visit Madame Xanadu, who then tells him to go to this location where he had earlier felt a surge of power, and it seems that there's going to be some connection possibly to his new Green Lantern ring and what is known as the Green in the DC universe, which is kind of like the mystical field that gives life to all plant life. Other than the color, I can't imagine what the connection would be to a Green Lantern ring that Hal Jordan made from a Manhunter, but I guess I'm kind of curious to see. Really what I want is to get the United Planets plot line moving forward more and for Hal to be a part of that. Now, we do get a little hint of that as these lanterns, not necessarily green, show up and kind of exercise their authority with Hal Jordan, and it's seen, are capable of using more than one spectrum of energy. One of them goes over to yellow and starts leveraging fear, and a moment later, another one of these mysterious lanterns that first appeared to be Green Lanterns and in fact have the Green Lantern emblem. Another one of these guys, representing the United Planets, then starts turning blue and like leveraging the power of hope. So I don't know if maybe the United Planets lanterns are now kind of like leveraging all the spectrums. There is word going around that different central batteries of different lantern cores are being destroyed or dissolved, or they're going missing or whatever. And so it could be that the United Planets are consolidating power into a single core that they are hoping to run. That wouldn't be my guess at this point, but that's really the story. That's the thing that I want to follow and get to the bottom of. And it looks like we might. There's a backup story with Kyle Rayner where he's kind of reflecting on his life, and through energy projection kind of imagines having a conversation with his dead girlfriend. Were they engaged? I think maybe he was thinking of proposing. I can't remember. But Alex, who very famously, very early on in Kyle Rayner's run as a Green Lantern back in the 90s, was murdered by Major Force, and her body was stuffed into a fridge. That's just been an infamous kind of plot point, and referenced many times among writers and readers of comics. But I still appreciated this kind of like touching, reflective moment where he says, he says to Alex, or the projection of her, that I still miss you, and I do kind of like something about Kyle being a little bit of a lonely. I mean, he's an artist, a tortured, lonely artist. Still kind of brooding. That connects with me and my sensibilities, anyway. Anyway, after this, he's approached by Sojourner, kind of another somewhat unique Green Lantern, and it looks like together they are going to go off and get to the bottom of what's going on with the United Planets once and for all. And so if this backup story continues in Green Lantern, I'm definitely going to have my eyes on it, not just because it'll give me answers about what's going on with the United Planets and the Green Lantern Corps, and maybe eventually what's up with the Guardians, but it's also remembering, even with a very Hal-focused book, that there are other Green Lanterns that readers really care about. Kyle Rayner is certainly one that I've cared about over the years. Sojourner is pretty new to me. I wasn't really interested in the style of her story that kind of like presented her origins and, made her a well-known Green Lantern. But I mean, other Green Lanterns like Guy Gardner, John Stewart, and I'm thinking, who else was it? Alexa Cruz, Jessica Cruz, that's her name. So like, I'm interested in some of these other Green Lanterns that have kind of come and then faded out of prominence over time. So if we can see them come more into focus while still having a central Green Lantern like Hal that we're really invested in, I would like that. Finally, we've got Batman 143 following up after just 1 week on the Joker Year One story with part 2. I was surprised that it came this fast, but I'm glad for it. I really want to get to the bottom of the Joker's origin and kind of get back to the Zur-En-Arrh story before I forget what was going on and all of that. Some of my confusion, I think, has passed at this point. I think I figured out that the world being overrun by everyone being infected by the Joker virus and kind of being turned into the Joker, that is a future story. It took me a while to definitively be confident in that. And so I think I can tell the difference between when that's happening and when we're flashing back to the early years of the early days even of the Joker becoming what he is. But knowing that doesn't help me really invest in this future story. I mean, eventually I think it's going to probably connect with the Joker's origins, but I would rather we just had a story that wasn't overcomplicating things with a possible what-if future that we keep jumping back in and out of. I would rather it just focus on the Joker's origin story. I mean, I would imagine that if we didn't have these future flashes in there, whatever they have planned for the Joker origin story maybe could have been done in 2, maybe even 1 issue. So it feels just like a little bit of extra stuff that isn't helping the story, and early on was even confusing me. Anyway, then we cut back to the Joker having met this guy that apparently trained Batman's mind way back in the day, but Batman, kind of like spurned him in some way, and so he's resentful and is looking for an opportunity to get back at Bruce. He sees the Joker as someone with amazing potential if he can just help fine-tune his mind, and so out of revenge and for Batman and out of his own interests as well, he offers to take on the Joker to teach him what he taught Batman so that the Joker can become this pristine, evil mirror opposite of Batman. Well, the Joker takes him up on this training, and among the things that he is taught by this guy is the ability to kind of segment his mind and create personalities that he can retreat to or bring out as the need arises. And this seems to be the explanation then for the three Jokers, as I kind of suspected they might be implying it with last issue. So the first Joker is described as the clown, the second one is described as the demon, and the third one is just described as, very calm, like cold death. And I think these kind of roughly correspond to the three Jokers Black Label story. Are we saying now that this idea replaces the Black Label story? Well, maybe. But again, I thought there was something in mainstream DC continuity not too long ago that was showing multiple Jokers physically in multiple locations at the same time, which would suggest that even if we come up with this idea of the three Jokers being mental constructs, that's not going to fix... Yeah, well, like I said last time, the only way it works is if there's more than three Jokers. There's three mental Jokers sharing the same body, and then there's at least one more physical Joker created by the real Joker, kind of a modified henchman or something like that, a glorified henchman. So that would mean before we can simplify down from three, we are adding an extra one to have a total of four Jokers. Well, that extra Joker got snuffed out at the end of the last story, so now we're retreating back to three, and maybe eventually we're going to find our way back to just one Joker. That would be nice. That would be nice. But I don't like the path so far that's being taken to get there. Again, I don't like the idea of the Joker being trained, of his mind being honed, of his mental powers, being built by somebody. Because if someone can help him build his mental powers, then that same someone is capable of analyzing and deconstructing and breaking down the Joker psychologically. And I don't think the Joker should ever be crackable by any psychiatrist or any other mental expert. It is the uncontrollable chaos that he is and the unknowable insanity that he is that I think makes him effective and scary as a villain. Now, having said all that, this story does give me an out to preserve my idea of the Joker. After the Joker's training is basically complete, he turns on his trainer, and the trainer guy, whose name keeps escaping me, says he's fast, too fast. Was he always this fast? So the Joker's kind of surprising him in this moment. He says, "I'm the smartest man alive, and for the briefest moments I think to myself, have I been tricked?" He goes on to think to himself as he's seemingly bleeding out at the hands of the Joker, "Was this madman greater than I anticipated, feigning fear in order to take knowledge from me?" What knowledge the Joker might have been taking, I don't know. Maybe just a little bit of knowledge about Batman, not necessarily anything that would help him be more effective. That's what I would prefer to think. I can't completely escape some of the things they've done to the Joker because, as I mentioned about last issue, we were seeing some internal dialogue of the Joker that suggested he was still at war with himself and not fully embraced into the insanity that we know the Joker to have. Anyway, so the trainer goes on to say, "Did he see me coming and put on a show? All I can do now in my final moments is take solace in his chaotic perfection and the knowledge that ultimately my goal has been achieved. He's coming for you, Bruce, and he's perfect." So, was the trainer responsible for the perfect state that he attributes to the Joker now? I would prefer to think no, that the Joker got something from this guy, but it wasn't like a transformation of his psyche, right? Some kind of improvement to himself. I don't think I'm going to be able to completely hold on to my idea of who the Joker should conceptually be with this story, but I think I can come pretty close. And I'm very grateful for this out. It makes me think that, okay, maybe I can enjoy and appreciate what remains of this Joker origin story. So yeah, it's because of the hints at the end of Wesley Dodds, the Sandman, Green Lantern, and Batman all three had hints at the end of their issues that made me think, oh, okay, I might enjoy what's coming more than I've been enjoying these books up to this point. And so for that reason, I have selected the blue ring representing hope. I am hopeful that these comics, while not comics that have been frustrating me or like boring me, I've been interested in them, but it looks like they could all three of these be taking a turn in a direction that I'll like even more. So I'm hopeful for that. But those are all of my thoughts about comic books for now. Which of these titles, or maybe something else that I didn't comment on that came out this last week, have your interest or that you have some thoughts about? I would love to get your comments, as always, in the comments below. And then, if you haven't yet, check out christiangeekcentral.com. A ton more content there. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.